Hello, my name is Brian Zubert. I work on the Alliances team at Research in Motion, and I welcome you to the video tutorial, How to Deploy a MIDlet. In this tutorial, you'll learn about the definitions of JAD files, how to deploy jar files, what a COD file is, how to convert jar files into COD files, and lastly, how to deploy a COD file. Let's start by talking about JAD files. A Java Application Descriptor file, or JAD file, is used to package Java applications for over-the-air download to mobile devices. It not only defines the files that are required to be installed on the mobile device, it also defines the minimum device requirements for the application, which are typically something along the lines of MIDlet 2.0 and CLDC 1.1. By hosting the JAD file together with a jar file, an end user can download and install an application by inputting the URL to the JAD file into their mobile web browser. This will display some descriptive information about the application and will present the user with the option to download the application. When the user selects download, the app is installed to the device. Looking at the details of a JAD file, we can see all of the instructions that are provided to the mobile web browser. The MIDlet1 tag specifies the application name, the relative path to the application icon, and the name of the main MIDlet class. Note that these three parameters are comma delimited. The MIDlet jar size tag specifies the size of the jar file to be installed. The MIDlet jar URL specifies the relative browser path to the jar file, which in this case is in the same directory as the JAD file. Note that for this tag, a full URL specifying the location of the jar file could be provided if desired. The MIDlet name, MIDlet vendor, and MIDlet version tags are all as expected and define the name of the application, the company vending the application, and the version number of the application. The last two tags are where the JAD file can define the minimum device requirements for running the application. The microedition configuration tag allows the app to specify the minimum required version of CLDC, and the microedition profile tag allows the app to specify the required version of MIDP. So far, there's nothing new here, and this is all more or less standard Java ME. So let's talk about something that isn't standard, a COD file. A COD file is a proprietary RIM format that optimizes Java code for execution on BlackBerry. Every application that runs on BlackBerry is converted to a COD file at some point, be it when the application is compiled or when the application is deployed. If it's the latter, then as a part of the over-the-air installation process, the BlackBerry will automatically convert the jar file to a COD file during the installation process. Why should your application concern itself with COD files? Well, for the most part, if your application adheres to strict MIDP, you might not even need to know about the presence of COD files at all. But if your application strays from the MIDP specification and chooses to leverage some of the BlackBerry's more advanced API features, such as retrieving the user's phone number, which is a common identifier for subscription-based applications, then your application will require RIM code signing, since phone number access is considered a protected API. To support RIM's code signing, your application will need to be compiled as a COD file so that the necessary signatures can be applied to your application. More information on RIM's code signing can be found in the video tutorial that is dedicated to this subject. So let's suppose that your application needs to be deployed as a COD file. How do you go about producing a COD file? One way to do it is to use the JDE for the development of your application, adding all of your source code to a JDE project and compiling it. But if you have a strict preference for your particular development environment, or have a build process that you just don't want to alter, you can take the final result of your build and convert your jar file directly into a COD file. As per the listed developer knowledge base article, I'll demonstrate how to perform this conversion using the JDE. Opening the JDE, the first thing we need to do is create a new workspace. We'll call it Test. In that new workspace, we need to create a new project. call it Test Project. Click OK. To that project, we want to add the JAD and jar file that we wish to convert. Changing the filter, we can see the JAD and jar file here. We'll open them and add them to the project. In this case, the JAD and jar file actually come from the MIDlet demo, which can be found in the sample directory of the JDE. Editing the project properties, we'll change the application type to be MIDlet, and we'll specify the main class of the MIDlet, which in this case is MIDlet demo. Build the application, and just like that, our jar file is converted into a COD file. While using the JDE will easily convert your jar file into a COD file, using a development environment for your builds isn't always practical. If you noted the output of the JDE's build command, you might have noticed that the JDE was actually using a separate tool for compiling the application. The command line executable that the JDE was calling was rapc. And since rapc can be invoked from the command line, it can be directly integrated into an automated build script. The call to rapc takes in a number of parameters. The first parameter is the location of the file netrim_api.jar. This file contains the BlackBerry's defined API set. The codename parameter defines the name of the COD file that will be generated. -midlet specifies that we are producing an application of type midlet. And finally, the JAD and jar are those of the application that we are converting to a COD file. Deploying a COD file is much like deploying a jar file. Host the JAD and COD, and point the user's mobile browser to the JAD file. The only difference is that now our JAD file references a COD file instead of a jar file. An additional benefit to using a COD file on BlackBerry is that you have many more deployment options available to you. If your users are sensitive to the amount of data they'll be using by downloading your application, you can deploy your application over USB using Desktop Manager, Java Loader, or Application Web Loader. Alternatively, if you are deploying to thousands of users in an enterprise environment, using the BlackBerry Enterprise Server, you can simultaneously push the application out to all users connected to that server. For more information on COD file deployment, please see the video tutorial that describes each of these deployment options in full detail. Now that you know how to deploy your MIDlet, both as a jar file and as a COD file, it's time to start putting theory into practice and getting your application into the hands of users. Thank you for your time and for your interest in developing for BlackBerry.